And it listened to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop. And he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And literally for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go. And you can tell they're panicking. They're like really flapping. Their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society, a podcast where we focus on cryptids, the strange, and the unexplained of this world. If you've got a story or something weird to share, send an email over to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now, on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, thanks for coming back for another episode. We've got a new friend here, Ryan Cavalline from Legend Hunters Films. How's it going today, Ryan?
I'm terrific. Thank you for having me on. I know we've been chatting for a while to be on. I was like, I got to be on. I think I bugged you for like months. Dude, you got to have me on, man.
He was very persuasive. And I'll tell you, listeners, you can try that, and just bugging me won't, like, that's not a you'll get on thing. So no, not everyone start bugging me, but like I was like,
send money,
and then
it might
checked out,
move you up the
not
list,
that
right?
either. Oh boy. I checked out the movies because you sent me some copies to review of each of the Mountain Devil films, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have so many questions. These are incredible. So definitely had to have Ryan on. And a lot of people that I respect in the community were starting to actually put your name when I would ask for people to interview. Mm-hmm. It was really weird. It was like a synchronicity type thing. A lot of people would start saying your name. So if you were paying off people to answer, you did a good job. But I just
have no money.
It was synchronicity. But Ryan, what are some other things that you would want listeners to know about yourself to kind of put the foundation down before we start chatting?
Oh, I've been a filmmaker for over 20 years. I've dabbled in horror movies, the comedies. I've produced, directed, written, edited. I kind of have my own little studio here, and I've been doing it for years. And then about 2010, I thought about getting into documentaries more, and that's what led me into the Bigfoot world and the whole Bigfoot community. And to this day, I'm now a big Bigfooter. I love it. It's what's the right word? It's a different world than the regular filmmaking I do, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the whole quest to see, is Bigfoot real or not,
It is a quest. It really is. It's a road that you can go down for sure. So that's interesting, Ryan. You started, what drew you into the community was making the films. Was there an aspect where, maybe you saw a certain Bigfoot film that set things off for you, or maybe there was, as a little kid, you used to watch Bigfoot stuff or anything like that?
It was funny. I had shot a lot of horror movies, and I was just kind of getting tired of it and just needed a break. And another friend of mine's like, you should try a monster movie. And I'm like, I don't know. And I thought one day, it was about 2010. I'm like, Bigfoot. No one does much about Bigfoot. And I always thought that was a West Coast thing. I never thought it was an East Coast thing. And so I did some Googling and found out that Pennsylvania has this whole Bigfoot community here. And I was like, get out of here. In my own backyard, there's Bigfooting going on. And there's these groups. And so I reached out to a lot of them. And one group came back to me. His name was Denny Calise and his wife. And one day he's like, you got Bigfoot in your backyard. I said, what? Here there were all these cases that were near my area. I never knew a thing about it. So one snowy day, he drove up in his Bronco and he took me out where they had sightings and reports, which were like within an hour distance of my house. And I'm like, then I got hooked, you know. I'm like, get out of here. Like, people are seeing Bigfoot like not far from where I was living. So we became really good friends, and he would take me out every time they had a report, and I just started filming them. And then he introduced me to more Bigfooters in the area and the groups, and it's very large. I was like, this is like a clubhouse. and I was the outsider, you know, and I was starting to like learn people, and I would hang out and go on their night investigations, and at one point I just kind of shelved it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. You know, I'm filming you guys out doing Bigfooting. So the more I filmed, I'm like, you know, this movie's really about them. Like, no one knows, it had a big picture of the Bigfoot community, and I thought this is what the first film kind of is, you know, them looking for tracks, getting sounds and wood knockings and the whole charade of things. And then I'd gone with them for about 2 years, just out film. Excuse me. So I would just follow them and just go out for a good 2 years. And then this case came along that was not far from my house, which was the Frank Peterson story, which Frank Peterson really isn't his name. We had to change everything. But it was just a very in-depth story that I'm like, this would work great with what we were doing. Like, here's Bigfooting 101. This is about Bigfooting in the communities and what they do. But here on the side, we had a story to tell. And I thought that was great because, you know, even with a documentary, you have to have a story there. What's the solid piece to it, you know? So I just kind of combined the two. But yeah, for 2 years, I was sleeping and breathing Bigfooting. I was out like every weekend putting trail cams up. Like, I became indulged in it to a very high degree. And to this day, I'm still into it, but not like back then, like in 2010 to 13. I was like engulfed with Bigfooting, and that was my first documentary away from the horror movies. And like, even when I was done shooting it, I'm like, this is a great, no one has seen what Bigfooting is. Like, these groups, no one had really seen all this. So it was like, it was filmmaking, but it was in a different world of filmmaking. That's the best way I can describe it. It wasn't what I was used to. And it took me on a new journey in life.
That is really cool. That's, you know, one of the first things I noticed when I started watching, I want to say, well, right off the bat, you start to notice, it's like, oh, he's got Stan Gordon in this. This is pretty cool. And then you've got some, you know, yeah, Eric Altman in there, and I was like, oh, this is rocking, dude. I'm loving, like, it's really cool. It's not just a story. Like, you've got some solid interviews, and oh man, I love Stan Gordon stuff. It's so good.
Yeah. I love Stan. He's such a good guy. To this day, we're good friends. He'll send me reports that are up my way. But yeah, to this day, it was hard to get him in the first film. He was really skeptical because he's like, well, the dude makes horror movies. I don't want to be associated to that. And me and Eric Allman had become good friends. And he's like, no, Ryan's legitimately just wants to make a documentary. Just, can you do it? So Stan did do it. And I think he got more comfortable with me over the next part 2 and 3.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like I got to know all those guys, and to today we're all still good friends. It was just at that time that they weren't real sure about me because of the background of all the horror movies. They were like,
sure,
is he going to make a horror Bigfoot movie and make our reputation look bad, really? And that was never my intent ever, you know.
And I would say, you know, from watching the films myself, it's like you were successful in portraying Pennsylvania Bigfooting and really Bigfoot history in that area in an awesome way. And we'll get,
thanks.
I don't want to skip ahead to the second film quite yet, but one thing I'm curious about is why name the films Mountain Devil?
That was based on what the Indians used to call Bigfoot in the area, was the mountain devil.
Okay.
And of course, I got the third degree for that for a while. Like, you gotta have Bigfoot in the title. You gotta have Bigfoot in the title. I'm like, why do you need to have Bigfoot in the title? Like, mountain devil's a little bit more intriguing than there's a dozen films named Bigfoot. No, let's just do something different. Let's be a little creative here.
I was curious if it had anything to do with like the Ape Canyon story. If you've heard of,
I've heard the story.
Okay, yeah.
No, it was more based on what the Indians had in the area had called Bigfoot was the mountain devil.
Cool,
So
that's
I
awesome.
thought that was just more intriguing than just saying Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it makes it a little edgy too. A little edgy to those
still.
who don't know the Bigfoot lore, but
Yeah.
So Mountain Devil. Let's start with the first one.
Mhm.
The search for Frank Peterson, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
We were kind of talking a little bit off camera beforehand, but there's probably going to be there could be potential spoiler warnings in this. I'll try not to, but
It's been out for so long now.
Watch them anyways. Yeah. Watch them anyways, guys. Check them out. How much? So it's weird because it's half documentary story. It's half Bigfooting in the field, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
You're filming the guys and gals going out looking for Bigfoot. There's also this underlying story that you're presenting. I found it super fascinating. I had to know, like, you're showing archival footage, interviews with people current day or what would be back 2010, 2011-ish. How much of that is real? How much of that is reenactment, I guess you could say?
And so when I was filming a lot of that, like I said, it was really based on the Bigfooters and what they were doing their investigation. That's really what the film was. And then I heard about this case not far from me, about an hour away. This cop who was pretty much on his deathbed had told his family about this story. They were like, they didn't even know about it. They were bedazzled, baffled by it. They never knew about it. So if a friend of a friend knew we were Bigfooting and got in contact, I don't even recall how we got in contact with these people, but we finally did. And the man's son, who was a cop too, he was a retired cop, just kind of blew me off for quite a while. He's like, no. And I just kind of stayed persistent. See, persistence pays off. Just keep at it, right?
Yeah, there you go. Hey.
Hey. So finally, the guy's like, I said, just let me just talk to you. I'm just curious. So he finally did. And I think it was kind of down to the trust issue of who these people are and what, I mean, you just, at that time, Google my name and you'd see all these horror movies come up. So I explained to him what I was doing, and I had a lot of the Bigfooters from this area go with me as kind of credibility. And they didn't want nothing to do with the film, which is fine, but he told us the story. And I said, listen, can I retell your story, leave your names out? And then they were kind of more open to it. So I got to interview like the granddaughter and the guy's friends and all, but they were real reluctant to say much. So it took a lot of like interviews and a lot of time, a lot of phone calls. So a lot of that I just kind of wrote down and journaled and typed it out and kept it all. So
Sure.
These people didn't want to be on camera, none of them, which I understand. Small towns, they don't want to be known as the Bigfoot people and get the finger pointed at them and stuff. And
Right.
so I just kind of kept it all on the binder of everything we talked about and did interviews on. And finally, I just kind of broke it up as interviews, and I just got actors to kind of reenact what we did with these people. And they were okay with that. They did show us some things, film reel, which I kind of looked at. We all kind of looked at for quite a while. They let me borrow it. I had the film converted to, an MP4 and video file so we could really look at it. And we were able to use some of it because I told them I will not show the whole thing, and I had to show them everything.
Stay tuned for more Bigfoot Society. We'll be right back after these messages.
So we had to reenact some of the film footage in there to kind of overlay with theirs. To this day, after looking at that footage several times, several hours of looking at it, having everyone look at it, no one knows. No one can come up with a definite answer. And like my deep down feeling is that it really looks like a mange bear that really got messed up in the head.
Ryan, weird thing. So this show is weird because during important parts, the internet gets wonky. So do you mind going back a few seconds and repeating? Because I think I missed something really. We were talking about you looking at the old footage and you noticed maybe something in a certain part.
Parts where they think their grandfather had shot this Bigfoot. I'm kind of giving away the ending, but the movie's been out for years now. If you haven't seen it, that's okay. So what makes it
that
moving
makes
on
you
here?
Want to see it more.
So like I said, most of the film reel, I got to use some of it. Like I kept it on file, and I told them I would not use the parts that they asked me not to. So we kind of had to reenact that stuff, which is fine. But looking at the file or the film repeatedly, to this day, I don't know. And like I said, I had other Bigfooters here from Pennsylvania to look at it. We kind of shared it, but we couldn't share it out beyond. Like it couldn't become widely known. You know what I mean? Couldn't show it all. They just want to keep it small. Don't tell everyone about this. We'll show it to you. I showed them the final product and they were fine with that. But to this day, after looking at the film or the file, I don't know. To this day, I think it was a mange bear, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay. So in the, sorry, listeners, it's going to get super, go watch the film anyways, just do it. So in the end of the film, it's like you're watching 70s footage, right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying some of that is real?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of like when they're driving up to the house or the camp.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the real stuff. And them in the camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can actually show you where the cut is. If you ever want to look at it, I can show you. This is where we started. Because we wanted to keep it authentic to what they were doing. And like we were just kind of replicating the part of the film we couldn't really show.
The Bigfoot on the ground is obviously fake, right?
Right.
For the film. Obviously.
Right, for the film.
But what you're saying is that you've seen an original 70s film that had something like that in there, but you're not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But you saw it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I saw it. And it wasn't long.
Mackerel.
It was like they had the last part leader of the film they used up, and it was probably as long as what I have in the film. Like it wasn't much seen. To this day, I don't know.
Wild.
I don't know.
Who else has seen?
Most of my crew here that filmed films with me, they've seen it. But like, family didn't want that like out, and he's like, you can show some. Like, it took a long time to get trust to say, I'm not going to put you in a film where it ruins your reputation in any way, because these people had jobs in law and government jobs, and they just didn't want to be out there. You know what I mean?
I have a feeling that that's bigger than you think it is. That foot.
Probably.
I just have this weird feeling that you saw a piece of film that's bigger than the Patterson-Gimlin film, and then no one will ever see. And but we'll never know. We'll never know. That's wild, man.
Well, there's been photos up in my area, the Jacobs, the Jacob photos of what they think was a bear or a Bigfoot sitting and eating not far from me. But if you look at those pictures, those looks like a mange bear. I don't know how else to explain it or look at it, but people this day think those were Bigfoot photos. I'm like, you really gotta look at this stuff,
Yeah.
Not to be the skeptic. I'm a hopeful believer. That's the best thing I can say. I am hopeful. It is possible that there's a creature out there that we haven't got all the information on, and I hopefully it's out there. Till I see one, I probably won't fully believe it. You know what I'm saying? I'm the first to say, that's probably this or it's that, you know. But we had stuff happen during filming of Mountain Devil I can't explain.
I was just about to ask you. I was like, I got to ask you. You're out there filming for a long time, going out with these guys and gals and everyone. Did you have anything that made you be like, oh, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. To this day, I have one major incident that I cannot explain. At the time when we were filming, it was near Clearfield, Pennsylvania, which is near a small town named Rockton. And at that time, they were having Bigfoot sightings. Like the girl in the film, she actually claims to this day she's seen this thing run across the road. A lot of those interviews were not reenactments, like the bar owner and the one girl. They're escaping my head. It's been years now.
Sure.
But those were all sightings from the Rockton area, which was literally an hour away from where this family lived, this other family that was the Frank Peterson story. So it all is in a driving distance of this, if there's Bigfoots in the area, to be in that area, correct? So I spent a lot of time up in the Rockton area because that's where all these sightings were being seen. All these wood stick houses were being found.
Oh yeah.
So one night we were out there about midnight, and we were back there far enough that no one's going to bother us. There's a gas oil road, and if you walk down in, there was a nice clearing down below. So we sat out there around midnight, me and another guy, and we're like just sitting there. And then we have wood knockings, like I'd say 30 yards away.
Oh man.
So I turned and did a couple knocks, and then I heard it again, but it was probably even closer. So I said to the guy with me, I said, "Do you have your gun?" He's like, "No, I thought you have your gun." I'm like, "No, I don't." No. And at the time, I'm like, "Okay, let's sit real still," because that was the first time the hair on the back of my neck was sky high. Ooh. And we started having rocks thrown at us, and they weren't falling out of the sky. Yeah, because we were in a field. I'm like, well, they're not falling out of the sky like acorns or what have you. These things were coming through the trees. You could hear them coming right over my head. Now it's about 2:00 in the morning. We're far from anything. People, there's no kids out there screwing with us on four-wheelers or what have you. This thing starts walking. There's kind of like a ridge in front of us, walking across that ridge. You could hear it. I've never been like scared, like literally scared. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? And at one point it stumbled. You could hear it stumbling, like it tripped on something. And then it got up and you could hear it walking, like step, step, step. And after that, the wood knockings were done. The rock throwing was done. So like a couple of weeks later, we had a big group investigation in the same area, and another group of the people that were with us had experienced rock throwing. Now up in there's like fencing for the deer to keep them out of certain sections. And these rocks were coming through and hitting them, or hidden behind them on these fences. So you could hear ta-ting, ta-ting. We're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one out there screwing around with us. Unless they want to drive really far and waste their time in the middle of the night, I don't know what chuckles they'd get out of it. But that was like the biggest thing I've ever seen or kind of been a part of that actually scared the hell out of me. I'm like, what is that? Because if it was a bear, you would hear it grunt and make more sounds, and you'd hear more footsteps. Exactly. Usually bears aren't going to trip on something either, you know, and they don't throw rocks.
How big were the rocks that were getting?
Yeah, nice size, you know.
Okay,
they weren't huge, but enough that they were. That was the one night I'm like, yeah, pack a gun every time. Every time.
Yeah. Was that in I'm not really super familiar with Pennsylvania geography. Was that in the Chestnut Ridge area at all, or?
We're kind of up north and more to the west.
Okay.
But if you follow the Chestnut Ridge from down below, like bottom of Pittsburgh, I guess the West Virginia, that mountain range comes all the way up to where I am. So we're probably at the peak end of it. So one of the biggest theories we always had was, are these things moving up and down the Chestnut Ridge? I mean, we're probably at the far end, and the theory always was that Bigfoots are kind of like bears; they move where the food is, so they're constantly going up and down this mountain range, and that would make sense where we're at, because we keep going. At this point, you're almost up into New York, where there's a lot more sightings of these things. So, are these things traveling up and down this mountain range? And we just kind of stumbled onto a few that were in that area. Now, at the same time, we had these wooden hut structures were found. I didn't personally see them. Another group of Bigfooters did, and there was like a bunch of them, like these little wooden huts that were found in the middle of the woods. They went back to look at them again, and they were gone. They were like kind of destroyed in some sense.
That is really interesting. Chestnut Ridge is such a weird area.
Oh, to this day, it's nonstop, because I'll talk to Eric Allman or Stan Gordon. They're like, their phones don't stop. They're like, these things are. It's just a hot
people
zone.
Calling in and telling them about stuff. Really? Oh man.
Yeah. If you want to come to Pennsylvania, that's the place to go. If you want to do any investigating, Chestnut Ridge is it.
So, I'll tell you, like, last year we had driven out to my parents are out in New England. We were coming back for some weird reason. We decided let's go through Pennsylvania. We went underneath south of Pittsburgh, and so we're driving in this area. I was like, man, this area is the weirdest. Like, it's just weird vibes all over the place. And I was like, where are we? And I was like, oh my goodness, we're in the Chestnut Ridge right now. It was like weird vibe city. I was more bells were going off in my head. I was like, we are in something weird right now. And I was out there. It is Chestnut Ridge.
Weird Pennsylvania area.
It's a weird place. Yeah.
They get UFOs, they get Bigfoots. It's just like the little triangle of weirdness down there for some reason.
Do you have any theories about why you think it's so weird down there?
Not really. It might be all the
I don't either.
moon shining.
I don't either.
the mountain ranges, or I don't know. Just the biggest theory of there's like a train that runs. There's a lot of train tracks that run up through there, so they think a lot of food, because a lot of deer and whatever get hit by the trains that go through.
Yeah.
So those deer are dead on the side of the road for like a day, then they disappear. Is that just a source of food?
Totally. That's a good theory. It's kind of like they know there's going to be something. Yeah, makes sense. That's a good theory. Mountain Devil 2, The Search for Jan Klement. It's so cool. So, like, I love a good mystery, and it's a 1970s Bigfoot mystery. You can read the book. The book. Well, before we get into it, so I'm sure you've had to summarize what this film is about. Like, there's so much in this one film, but how do you summarize it down to, like, you know what I mean? It's wild, dude.
Summarize it. I don't know. It's the hunt for the truth. Who wrote the book? I don't. That was really the one statement line about that movie. Who wrote it? Was it real? If I'm sure you've read the book, but that book came out in like 76, 77, and if you read it, it is to the T about Bigfooting.
It is so good.
It's so good. Like, it's like, how did he know? Whoever the author was of that was Bigfoot behavior, because even back then we really didn't know much, and the internet didn't have all the info it does now. But exactly, if you look at that book, I mean, it's to the T of such Bigfoot behaviors, and that was in the 70s.
I mean, it's such a good point, because it's like the guy whoever wrote it couldn't just get on the internet and just be like copy paste from all over the place, like, or watch 2 seasons of Finding Bigfoot or whatever and all that jazz. And Stay tuned for more Bigfoot Society. We'll be right back after these messages. Like, that wasn't a possibility. And oh man, yeah, you can get it. It's on. You can get it on Kindle. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's a free thing. Like, it's wild.
I think they're up to edition 4 now or something.
It's a
or
good
print number
book.
4. Yeah, that's what it's. That was one of the first books I read that I was intrigued. Like, actually, that book, The Creature, I read back in 2000, and I thought we should do a documentary on this book. That's pretty interesting. So originally, Mountain Devil was supposed to be based on that book. But when I reached out to the publishing company, and they just said no. So it just kind of got
they
thrown to the
declined.
side.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was about 2011, and he's like, "No, we're not interested." So I threw it to the side. So, and Mountain Devil became what Mountain Devil is. It was a completely different film. So fast forward almost 10 years later, I'm like, I was interested in doing another Bigfoot film, but what do you do? I mean, I never wanted my filmography to be Bigfoot films. I just don't.
Sure.
A little creative. Let's do a few different things. I don't.
Right.
Let's clean out some files one day, and that book fell out. I'm like, oh, we gotta look at this book again.
Yeah.
So I got back online trying to figure out, who's running the Allegheny Press, who put it out. And it was a man by the name of John Klement. So there's no phone numbers, no nothing. So I wrote a letter. Wow. I got a letter back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, old school letters. Imagine that,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
At the time, he wasn't. He was still alive then, and his daughter was in charge of the publishing company, and she was more open to the idea of you want to do a film on this. So that was our door in, So
it's a very, very cool story. I'm going to try to summarize it a little bit. It's about, there's a book put out in the 70s called The Creature, and it's pretty much a gentleman who has this, he's in this cabin, and he starts to become friends with this Bigfoot creature. And it's just really interesting stuff. Like he's giving apples. There's staring interactions back and forth for hours. There's even a part when the creature comes up to him and almost like kind of gives him a little ET, like a finger tap type. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, it's like ET. This is crazy. But and then they just they almost have this like friendship going on. It is so interesting. And I really liked how you put Steve Cole. You had Steve Cole's Squatch Detective in there. That was cool. Because it's like half the thing is you're trying to figure out who the guy is that wrote this book, and everyone's got their own theory. And like, you're talking to Lauren Coleman, you're talking to Steve Coles. I was like, this is so stinking good.
Yeah, Steve was the first one. He was one of the first ones. I mean, I gotta get a hold of Steve because he did his own podcast on the book. So I wanted to get his ideas and stuff. And Steve has a background in like investigating,
right?
Like private investigating. So him and I had a long conversation about it, and like he has his theories, I have mine. I won't tell anyone anything.
So
I probably will by the time we're done.
Well, we'll see. Okay, one thing I wanted to ask you is, this film, I think, could not have worked if you had used any other type of Bigfoot mask than the one that you used. Where is that? That is an amazing thing.
I think it's right there. If I can point right there, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah, I got it sitting there.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow, perspective makes it look so really small.
It is. It's way back here.
Okay, it's way back. Yeah. I was like, it looks like a little mug.
Yeah. No, I kept the head. I
That's cool.
Came across this guy that made these Bigfoot masks, and I'm like, can you make an old one? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, there solves that problem.
Like looking at this guy, it's like, oh man, this is literally making it right now. It's like, and like the mouth doesn't move, but it's super cool. I just had to say
it was
good
the
job
eyes.
on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I always thought the eyes of it just kind of said everything. And like, it wasn't going to talk in the film. So the eyes had to say everything, you know?
Oh yeah. And it worked. It worked for sure. Did you ever get to come across a copy of the creature from the 70s? Did you ever were able to track one of those down? You do.
I have the first copy, and I have it's signed by John Tamickle from the Allegheny Press. Signed it for me.
Why would he sign it if he didn't write it though?
I asked him to sign it. So you sign this because it's a first edition, and I knew this has been a journey, so sign it. You know?
Can you sign this as the publisher and definitely not the writer?
Right. which was great. Like when I got the letter back saying, "Hey, we'll talk about the film and what you want to do." So, you know, I talked to his daughter and I said, "Listen, this only works if I can really interview John,
right?
You know, your dad." And she's like, "Well, my dad's like, I think at the time he was like 87." Wow. I said, and he was in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I'm like, "Can I come up and just interview him?" She's like, "I'll get back to you." So it was like a week, 2 goes by. I'm like, "So this isn't going to work if we don't get an interview from him because he's the one that found the book, put it together, what have you." So finally she called me. She's like, "Yeah, you can come up and interview my dad." And we set up a day and I go up, and he was so tickled. You could tell he was just ear to ear smiling about being interviewed and like telling me the stories about how, you know, how he found the book and how about the writer and this and that. And he went, and it's in the film, him telling me that extra part of the story that no one even knows about is him and this writer went back to the spot, which is in the film. And he's like, "I'm going to tell you something that's not even in the book, or I haven't told anyone really much about." So he tells that story, which I'm like, I'm ear to ear smiling because I'm like, I got gold here. This is gold. You know?
That's amazing.
So I'm like, "Thank you." And I took off and I said, we haven't even started production or doing much of anything with filming because it was still like half winter out. So we go and shoot the whole film. And I think I was like maybe 2 months. And at the time I was sending him stuff, keeping him updated through email. And I sent him a poster we did, which was a replica of the book cover. But it said Mount Della 2 on it. And it was like a complete replica of the book cover. He just loved it. He was just happy and joyful as could be. And one day I was at work and his daughter texted me and said, "My dad passed away." And we were like, I was about 2 months away from it done. And I literally had talked to him a week before and said, "We're almost done, buddy. I'm going to send you up a DVD or within a month." And he ended up passing away. Never got to see the finished film. Yeah.
That's really
so
hard.
That was like, that was like the biggest bummer, but I don't know if maybe he thought this is my chance to tell the story about the creature, the book a little bit. And I don't know, but I was heartbroken. I was like, I kind of was doing it for him too, because it was his published book, you know. I don't know if it was his book, but you know, he had control over it, and it was just really sad. He kind of put a damper on it.
Thank goodness you made the film when you did, and you were able to, because it wouldn't have, that documentary would not have worked if he was, I mean, you said it yourself, he gave you info that wasn't in the book at the end. Man, that makes it even more amazing. You know, I love a good documentary story, and this is supposed to be a big compliment, so hopefully take it as such. But have you ever, like, I really like King of Kong because it's got a great story. I don't know. Have you ever seen that documentary?
Yes.
King of Kong. Yes. And I put yours right up there with it, man. Like, it's so
thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Good. Listeners, if you haven't seen King of Kong, go watch it after you watch Mountain Devil.
Mountain Devil 2 is kind of like the one that sits dear to my heart compared to the other two. It just, you know, we went through so much to get it made, and it was just kind of weird how everything folded out. You know, the film was almost done. He passes away.
Wow.
Another person that we interviewed, he died. I'm drawing a blank, and I'm a horrible person. But like 2 people died while we were making the film.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. But you know, we do our best what we can on a low budget. Like we were talking about the outfit and costume. Like we barely have any money to make anything, so it's nickel to dimes to put together the best stuff we can. Bigfoot costumes are expensive, and to go rent one, they're expensive, and they've been used in a dozen films. So, you know, we try our best on bologna sandwich budgets.
I think that's also what makes the mask that you used special, because you're not going to see that in any other Bigfoot movie / film ever. It's only in Mountain Devil 2. That is very cool.
And the biggest question too is, like, you know, in the movie we're trying to find out who really wrote the book, which we never really come to a conclusion. But if you watch the film, it kind of points in a direction. But, you know, was the book true? That's the biggest question. I mean, there's so much stuff in it that's Bigfoot 101 from back in the 70s, but there's parts of the book that are pretty far-fetched too. So I kind of stayed away from those parts just because there were just a few in there. I'm like, it kind of loses its credibility a little bit with some of it.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure you know which parts I'm talking about. There's just a few in there just...
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I also want to point out to listeners that the way I've been describing the film, as it's kind of like all like happy-go-lucky. There's some parts in there that might get a little rough for little kids. So maybe maybe watch it before. Like, I know some families listen to this. It gets a little, like, you know, nothing crazy, but I'm like, you know, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but
I might as well. We spoiled it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. So so he. I don't even
it's all
know
good.
how to get into this. Nah, I'm not gonna. Sorry, guys, you gotta watch it.
All right.
So here's the thing with John, and I want to know what I'm going to ask you what your theory is, even though you might not share it. Or who do you think wrote the book, rather?
I'll put it this way. This is the best way I can put it. When John was telling me that story about him and the writer, and they went and looked for the body one more time, and that was never in the book, and tells me the story, and at the end I'm smiling, and all I wish he would have done was just winked at me. That's all I wanted him to do, was just wink at me, and I was waiting for it. I'm like, come on, man. And he didn't do it.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of tells you what I think. It was just like that climax story, and I'm like, just give me a smile, a little wink or something. Like, I took you on a great adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's a little similar to what I'm thinking after hearing what you said. Is so John is pretty much entrusting you with this tale, and he knows it's close to the end of his life. And he's like, this is how I'm interpreting it, right? And he's like, this Ryan guy, he's legit. I'm going to give him my last copy of the book. I'm giving it what I was holding on to. Ryan, take it. It's yours. I think that if he was the actual writer, he would have told you 100%. I just think he would have done it. So I don't know. It's tricky though.
It's tricky. Yeah.
Because Steve Coles is like, Steve lays it out. He's like, okay, the guy was divorced. The guy was an earth science teacher, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, geez, Steve went to town on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I kind of compared the book, The Creature, to some of his other books, and the writing is very similar in style. Not unless whoever the other writer was gave him just a box of notes and said, "Here's my story. You put it together." Like he did say that in some way, but so did John take this guy's story and put it in the correct format? I don't know. It's a possibility. But yeah, Steve kind of went to town and probably like, this happened. There's your guy.
Yeah. Boom.
But it's funny, like I interviewed other people and they're like, I don't know. Like a lot of the arrows point in that direction, but a lot of the well-known Bigfooters are like, I don't know if he really did or didn't.
Stay tuned for more Bigfoot Society. We'll be right back after these messages. I feel like this is a thing where if you're a Pennsylvania Bigfooter, everyone has an opinion on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But not a definite answer. No.
Right. And it's like, if you know the story, then you're in like this cool Pennsylvania Bigfooter club type thing.
It is. And it's sad how many people didn't know about the book. When I was doing the film, I'm like, why don't you know about this book? Like, it was like, you would think that's like one of the biggest Bigfoot books out there. It was written back then. You don't know about this? I was really surprised. So hopefully I gave the book a new life when we did the film and like kind of maybe jumped their sales. I don't know. But I was kind of sad by that. I'm like, you got to read this.
In fact, so there were a few movies, documentaries that I love. Just because they're niche Bigfoot stuff. And if a person is like, oh, I love this, and I'm like, okay, you're cool. In Search of Bigfoot, Robert W. Morgan from the 70s. Yeah. Drumming for Bigfoot, Henry Franzoni, the 90s. Mountain Devil 2.
Oh,
I'm
thanks,
adding
man.
it to the list, dude. It's wild.
Thank you.
It's wild.
Thank you.
Man, it's cool.
The biggest, like, the whole thing's kind of sad, but it even makes me feel, I don't know, sad worse later. Like when the film did come out and it was like on Amazon, whenever I'd get messages from people saying, this made me cry so much. I was so sad. This is great.
Really?
But it made me cry. Yeah. Like I had, I don't know how many messages saying this was a tearjerker. I was thinking this was going to be a Bigfoot, mountain devil type of film. And it made me cry. I'm like, it is a tearjerker. I'm sorry.
One of the last shots in that is the cabin foundation. That's not the actual place, right?
No, it was just a rundown cabin that was near the area. Cool. Just kind of used it as a reference of. I don't think anyone's really pinpointed where the cabin was. I mean, they have some ideas, but I know Steve did a lot of research down there and just couldn't pinpoint exactly.
And the cabin was called the Diggins, right?
The Diggins, yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. I mean, we were down there for a few days and it's such a vast area too. I mean, but it's near the Chestnut Ridge. You know what I mean?
That alone, adding it in, makes it even crazier. And it's I could totally see this story happening in the Chestnut Ridge.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. If John wrote it, he was from Erie. He wasn't really in the Pittsburgh or Greensburg area.
Right.
So how did he get all this info about? I mean, I guess there was newspaper clippings back there, but not in great detail. And to this day, Chestnut Ridge is still active, and this whole book takes place near the Chestnut Ridge. Strange.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Since this film has come out, has there been more info that you found, or have people maybe contacted you after seeing the film and like, hey, here's a little piece of info you might want to know, or anything like that?
No.
No. Okay.
Nothing. Cool. Other than people, messaging me saying you made me cry, and that was a real heartfelt Bigfoot film. No one ever said, "Hey, I got a piece of info you might want." Usually, when I'm done with a film, I am done with a film. I don't want to do any more with it. If it's locked and done and it's shipped off to the distributioner, I'm done.
You're like, that's it.
Yeah, too late. The film's done. I don't know what you want to tell me now. Should have told me when we were
If
filming.
listeners to this have more information, do you want to hear it?
Send to Stan Gordon.
Send it to me too, because I kind of want to know. But send it Stan first. Stan Gordon first. I need to have Stan on.
Absolutely.
But I kind of want to know too. So send it to Bigfoot Society at gmail.com.
Yeah, just let me know what you find later.
Oh, so you do want to know?
Well, I mean, if it's something pretty good, yeah, pretty juicy.
Oh,
but
you want to make what would you call it? Mountain Devil 2 Part 2?
2.5 Reloaded.
Part 2.
Dude.
That'd be good stuff. Oh man. And then Mountain Devil 3, the Bigfoot invasion.
Yeah.
Tell me about Mountain. I don't even have to say it, but
yeah.
Tell me about Mountain Devil 3 in your own words, Ryan.
After 2 was so like the heartfelt family movie, I guess. I'm like,
really
we gotta do 180 because you can't do the same film.
No,
you just can't. So I said, we're gonna go in the other direction of bad B movie possible. And everyone's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be great. It'll be like the cheesy B movies from the 60s. And we'll just do it over the top with these UFO and Bigfoot invasions. We'll make up these weird stories and just have fun with it. And that was my highlight. I just kind of wanted to get back to like a little bit of horror movie stuff and just make just a fun movie. But there were so many stories here in Pennsylvania about Bigfoot and UFOs and aliens happening at the same time. I mean, there's a whole list of stories. I'm like, that's great. We can hit on those and that'll be the documentary part. But in between, we'll just tell these wild, crazy stories that have no truth to them whatsoever. I said, I just want to make a fun, bloody monster movie. And that's what I did. It's not the peak of my filmmaking. I know that. But I'm like, let's just do one more Bigfoot or Mountain Devil movie. We'll just make it fun, you know?
It's fun.
So you can't take it serious.
Like, oh my God.
I said the costume's horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I'm like, well, let's just make it cheesy B movie style. That's
really what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say you have solid interviews in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's half fun, cheesy 50s, but kind of horror-ish. Like, it gets rough, not for little kids, but like you also have some really solid interviews with Bigfooters in there, and I'm like, oh, this is okay. I'm still digging it. Stan Gordon still in it.
I don't think Stan was happy with that one, but yeah, he's like,
I was like,
you didn't tell me it was going to be like a cheesy B movie. I said, yeah, you wouldn't have did it, right? And he's like, probably not. I'm like,
well,
I had an old interview with him, and I said, listen, it's just an old interview with you about the UFO stuff. Can I use it? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And then he saw the movie. He's like, it's not my favorite Mountain Devil movie. I said, it's not my favorite either,
really
but you know, it is what it is.
That is funny stuff. Oh my goodness.
But there are good interviews in there with some great stuff, though. I mean,
oh yeah, totally. What is your do you have any personal thoughts about the whole Bigfoot / UFO phenomenon?
You know, it's crazy. Some of those stories, it's hard to ignore. Like, is Bigfoot interdimensional? Because like a lot of the investigations we were doing, there were reports of lights in the woods, like these balls of lights floating around. Kind of bounces. That goes from Mountain Devil 1 all the way to Mountain Devil 3 about those little lights. I'm like, I remember us talking about them and people seeing them. I never seen them, but is it possible he's just an interdimensional thing that shows up and disappears? I don't know. The biggest thing that always intrigued me was when people find footprints and these footprints go off and off into the woods and then they just disappear.
Yep. 100%.
How do you explain that? You know,
I don't know.
And people have reported, you know, seeing the Bigfoot, seeing UFOs, seeing balls of lights at the same time. I mean, there's some great stories in the film. Eric Altman gave a great story that I never heard of, but I mean, I can't remember the guy's name offhand, but the one guy who worked with people doing therapy saying the one guy said he had seen a Bigfoot and he was taken up on a ship, and then he seen himself as an older person. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
So are they all connected? I don't know. It's hard to take serious, I guess, because it's such a Star Trek-y, far-fetched thing. But actually, it would surprise me is Stan Gordon and I were talking about, and Stan's leaning more towards that way.
Well, Ryan, I would agree with you a week and a half ago, but dude, all I'm gonna say is over the last few days, all bets are off, buddy. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, but future listeners will have to look through history books and figure that one out for themselves. But
even down Chestnut Ridge, they're seeing a lot of lights. These small balls of lights floating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they can't.
Oh man.
You would think maybe it's gas from the ground or something. There's some scientific reasoning behind it, but moving really fast and going up, and I don't know. At this point in life, it could be.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, dude. UFOs, aliens. Who knows?
All I know is if I see the mothership, I'm running towards it.
You're gonna run towards it. You're gonna take over and start flying it. It's funny. You think there's gonna be ever a Mountain Devil 4? Or is this the trilogy?
I've been playing around with the fourth one in mind.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't want my filmography to be
right.
Mountain Devil.
But you have a lot of other films, like a lot of different horror films. So I think you could do a Mountain Devil 4 and you could still, people.
I'd be okay.
See you're the Bigfoot guy. Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of ghost investigations with a group up in New York who they're all Indians, or their background, their ethnicities, and we were talking about Bigfoot the one day, and they have a lot of stories, and even up in the New York area, and they were telling me a few of them. I'm like, oh my god! And the Indians really had believed in Bigfoot and then had interactions with Bigfoot, and some of the stories they were telling me, I'm like, I've never even heard these before. I'm like, might be an angle for a Mountain Devil 4. Is what did the Indians think back then, or to this day, really?
I love it
because there's the little Bigfoots they used to talk about too. The ones that used to steal apples, and that's the name's escaping my brain. But I mean, there's just so many different stories. I'm like, that's a full movie almost.
Albatwitch?
Oh yeah. Something like
because that's a Pennsylvania thing, right?
Yeah. The little Bigfoots that would steal apples.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so I'm like, that could possibly be a part 4. I got so much on my plate right now. I don't know when I'd get to it.
I got a weird question for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Bigfoot, but we talk about other cryptids sometimes on this. So, being a Pennsylvania person, a Pennsylvania native, what do you have thoughts on the squonk cryptid? Have you ever looked into the squonk?
The squonk.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I really haven't looked into it. Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I really.
All right.
I should look into it more. I don't know.
You should. You should make an amazing squonk movie. No one has made a squonk movie yet, dude.
Well, I'm in the process of making a film called Folklore and Legends. That might fit well in there. I'll have to look into that. Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's like a Folklore Legends of Pennsylvania, or
anything like all these little stories about anything from lost treasures to train robberies to weird creatures no one knows about, and just the weird stuff of Pennsylvania. Yeah.
I like that.
So that might fit in well. Yeah. You just gave me an idea. I'm writing that down.
Well, I mean, it's the year of the squonk, Ryan. There's actually Squonkapalooza is coming up this summer.
Where are they having that at? Are you going?
No, I live in Iowa, so I'm not going. But if you're out in the East Coast, you totally should.
I might. Do you know how many Bigfoot events we have around here? Like I could have a full book
it's a
of
lot,
year.
Right?
Oh my goodness, yeah. It seems like, especially down by the Greensburg area or near Chestnut, it seems like every other month they're having one.
Wow.
They're just all over the place.
Squawkapalooza is August 26th, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So,
oh, that's not far at all. 2 hours.
Hey, you got it, man.
It's just, I got to cut back on stuff. That's how much stuff we have scheduled. It's just.
I'm going to ask you one more question. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on Dogman?
I think Dogman is kind of a hybrid of a Bigfoot. I think it's just a Bigfoot, just a different breed of Bigfoot, perhaps. Yeah, I don't think it's a dog changing into a person or what have you, or vice versa. I just think people that see Dogman are just seeing a form of a Bigfoot that just kind of a different breed, maybe. One that doesn't eat as much. I don't know. They're big in Ohio.
Yeah, they are. They really are. Is that theory based on anything that you've encountered during your Bigfoot years, or just something that,
Just interviews I've done with people, and if they said they'll say, I've seen a Bigfoot, and I've seen a Dogman too. I'm like, well, what was the difference? Well, they kind of looked the same, and they walked kind of the same. One just had a longer face, and they're basically two creatures doing the same thing. So why isn't it just the same creature, just maybe a different pedigree,
That's really interesting. That is really,
but yeah, they're
interesting.
big. Or the Dogman, there's quite a few people that claim to see them up this way, but they're not the ones I go run into. Like, I'm like,
Gotcha.
And like, I'm not dissing on the Bigfoot community. I'm not. But I mean, you got to really read between the lines when you get an investigation or a report come in. Like, I'll start asking them questions. If I don't feel like they're all there, I'm not wasting my time. And I'm not trying to judge anyone. I'm really not. But
right.
It's this field, and you get all types that come out who've all seen Bigfoot. And I'm like, well, tell me your story. I'm like, well, why didn't you do this, or what was going on? Oh, you were drinking. Oh, okay. Well, maybe you didn't see. You just got to feel through them. Almost got to do like a therapy intervention report and see, are they cognitive to know what they saw,
Oh, I totally get that. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I'm not dissing it. I'm just, you gotta be careful with the reports you get or who you talk to. And I've just heard some wild stuff, especially if you go to conventions or something. I've been there, and there's always those people who come up to you. I've seen a Bigfoot. I'm going to tell you the story, and they'll be there for 2-3 hours telling you stories. I'm like,
oh, I love that stuff. Oh, that happened to me at Crypticon. It was the best thing ever. Oh, I loved it.
Really?
Oh, I dig that, dude. I talk to people every week for fun about Bigfoot. I interview them. That's kind of my thing, right?
You like the abuse, don't you?
I love that stuff. Huh?
You like the abuse?
I love it. It's so much fun hearing people's story, dude. It comes from some of it is I used to drive Uber a lot. I would get the best stories from people, not Bigfoot stories, but I would get crazy. People in an Uber car will just start talking about anything. Anyways,
I can only imagine.
Ryan, you don't want to know. Maybe, but I'm not gonna tell it on air.
That's a different book, right?
That's a different podcast. Ryan, this has been super fun chatting with you about. I'm just gonna call it the Mountain Devil Trilogy. How about that?
That works fine. Yeah.
That works. All right.
Yeah.
So, how can people keep up to date best with what you're doing, and what is the best way for them to watch Mountain Devil that helps you the most?
Follow our Facebook page, Legend Hunter Films. Follow me on Facebook, Ryan Cavalline. We do have an Instagram page. You can follow us on there. You can buy our films at legendhunterfilms.com. If you want to watch any of it, Amazon has all the films up right now, I believe. And also, I think Tubi is running most of them right now. I lose track of the VOD stuff because it comes and moves. But definitely, I know they're on Amazon, so you can always check them out there. If you want a hard copy, just you can get them off our website if you want a DVD copy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, Ryan.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to watch it and listen to me ramble for an hour. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to Bigfoot Society. If you like the show, please review and rate it 5 stars on iTunes. Hit the share button and send this episode to all your friends on social media. Subscribe to Bigfoot Society wherever you listen to podcasts. It doesn't cost a thing. Pick up a Bigfoot Society shirt or enamel pin over on our Etsy page, and people will tell you all about their Bigfoot sightings when you wear it. At least that's what people tell us. That's what happens. If you'd like to become an official member of Bigfoot Society with a membership card, a community of like-minded individuals, and extra content each month, then please consider becoming a supporter of the podcast by going to www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. Thanks for listening.